Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be making this trendy tiered keyhole gown. So the first thing we want to do is to mark out our neck width. So I've gone ahead to fold my paper into two for my drafting. Then I'm going to mark my shoulder, half of my shoulder measurement. Then at that point I'll be going down by 1 inch for my shoulder slant, and I'm going to connect this into the neck width. Alright, then I'll go ahead and measure my arm length. For me it is 7.5 inches, so just go ahead and divide your round bust by 6 and then add 1.5 inch to get that. Okay, I just went on to rule a horizontal line. Then on that line I'm going to mark half of my shoulder measurement again, so that I can get a straight line when I connect this together. Alright, so after doing that, go ahead and mark your other vertical measurements, your bust points, your under bust point, and your half length. Okay, so while marking your half length, ensure you add 1 inch to that, so that it's going to serve as your joining allowance. Okay, remember it has a down part to this, and I just went in with my rule to connect my lines like so. So after doing that, we'll just go ahead and label our line, the chest line, the bust point, the under bust, and then the waist. Then on our arm length, we just go ahead and take the measurement we have there, divide it by 2, and then mark the midpoint we have. Go in by half of an inch at that point, mark it down. Then on the chest line, mark quarter of your round bust. Okay, so that's your round bust divided by 4. Mark that down and then connect the marks you've made together like so. Alright, then the next thing we want to go ahead to do is to impute our bust pan. Okay, that is your nipple to nipple measurement. So take the half of it. Mine is 7 divided by 2. I have 3.5 inches, so I just marked that from my chest line to the waistline, and I'm going to connect the points I've made together. Then on the shoulder area, I'll go ahead and take the measurement I have there, divide it by 2, and also mark it down. Okay, then I'll connect a line to meet my shoulder point like so. Right, so I'll go ahead and mark my neck depth. I'm going to be using a neck depth of 3 inches, so you can use whatever you think works best for you. Okay, and then I'll connect this together with a simple curve. Then on my under bust area and the waist, I'll be going in and out by 1 inch on both sides. That's because I have a small bust, but if you're on a bigger bust side, on the outer part go out by 1.5 inch. Then on the center front, go in by 1 inch. Okay, that makes it 2.5. For me, I'm using 2 inches. All right, then on my bust point, I'll be going down by half of an inch. I will just mark it down, right, and then connect it with a curve to meet the line I drew at my under bust. Alright, so from my chest line, I'll be going up by 1 inch. If you want to work with your chest line, you can do that. Okay, I just wanted to go up by 1 inch for more cover, and I will make a horizontal line at that point like so. Then I will go out, in and out on both sides by 1 inch also, in order to tighten the chest area. Then I'll go up from my bust point by half of an inch also. Now going up from your bust area is simply to avoid any form of pointiness around the bust area. Okay, that is the reason for that, and I'll just go in with my curve rule to connect my points together. Okay, so you can see what we have like this. Okay, this is what we have. Now for our neckline, since it's a sweetheart neckline, I will just connect a line to meet my chest line. Okay, so from the up part, I will just connect a line to meet my chest line. Now if you want yours to be deeper, you can go down from the chest line depending on how you want it to be. So this is what I wanted. Then on this other end, I will just make my connection also to meet the other points like so. So just watch closely how I'm going to do this. All right, so you can see what we have there. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is to um take a horizontal measurement, that's a circumference measurement. So go ahead and divide your round bus by 4, mark it down, and then take that allowance you took, connect it, like add it down, and also mark your inseam allowance. So I'm using an inseam allowance of 1.5 inches plus the dart allowance I have around the chest area. I just marked that down. I repeated the same process for my underbust to the measurement I had there, divided it by 4, okay, marked the dart allowance I had and added my inseam allowance. So I'm using an inseam allowance of 1.5 inches like I said. So depending on what you want, you can do that. Remember, we're not turning this with a lining, so you need lesser allowance inside so that it doesn't look tacky. So I just went ahead to connect the points I have made together like so. So we have that part down. Now to get our yoke from this, what we're going to do is that from the neck area, that's from the where you've already marked your neck depth, go ahead and mark how open you want this to be. Now it can be from it might be less or it might be more. It simply depends on how you want this to turn out. So just go ahead and mark it down. I just marked 3 inches from my neck depth, okay, and I'll go ahead to connect it like so. So just watch how I'm going to make this connection. Okay, so this is what we have. So next thing I want to do is I'll just write here, this is the yoke, and I'll go ahead and cut this out. Okay, so this is what we have. You can see this yoke. This is what it looks like. Okay, so you notice from the video of our clothes, the shoulder area is actually inwards. So if you want yours to be that way, you just go in from your armhole area, depending on how small you want that shoulder area to be. So you can use 1.5 inches, you can use 2 inches. You just go in at that point, mark it down, and then curve it back into the armhole area. But for me, I don't want that to be too small, so I'm just going to leave it like that. And so this is just simply an example if you want to tuck in the arm area also. So for the back part, I've gone ahead to mark out my zip allowance area on another pattern paper. Then after doing that, I'll go in and take my neck width of 3 inches. I'll just mark it down, take half of my shoulder measurement, make a mark there, and then go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slant, after which I will just connect it to meet the neck width I marked earlier. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and impute my armhole length of 7.5 inches. Remember, I said to get this, go ahead and divide your round bust by 6 and then add 1.5 inches to that. Okay, it is an easy way to get this, and just rule a horizontal line there, and I'll go in and also mark half of my shoulder area, half of my shoulder at that point, and connect the line I have together in a straight line. Then I'll just take the measurement I have here, divide it by 2, make a mark there. All right, and then take quarter of my round bust, also mark it down. Now what you need to know is that whatever measurement you're using for the front, it also applies to the back. Okay, don't use a different measurement for the front and then use a different measurement for the back. Okay, so for the neck depth of the back, we'll be using 1.5 inches. That's because the front is already deep, so you don't want your back and your front to be hollow. All right, and I just went in with my curve rule to connect the points I have made. Okay, so I'll go on and impute my other vertical measurements, the bust point, the under bust point, and the half length. Now remember I said while marking your half length, add 1 inch to that. It's going to help to join up when you're joining the down part to this. You don't want your dress to be shortened. Okay, so ensure you add that allowance. Is going to serve as a joining allowance, and I just went in with my rule to just rule out the points I've made. Okay, so this is what we have for those lines. So what we'll do next is to go ahead and label our lines. This is the chest area, this is the bust point, the under bust, and then the waist area. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is to mark our darts. To do that, go ahead and mark half of your bust pan, which is nipple to nipple measurement. Just mark that from the chest line down to the waist point. Mark it down. Okay, so mine is 3.5, and I'll just go ahead and connect the points I've made together. All right, then after doing that on the chest area, I will go down by 1 inch. Okay, that's the point I want my dart to get to. I just marked that 1 inch. Then on the waist, I'll go in and out on both sides by 1/2 inch. I'll mark it down. Then I'm going to use my rule to connect it to the top part of my dart. Okay, just watch what I'm doing. So this is what it's going to look like for the back. So the back of this dress doesn't have a yoke. Okay, so this is what it looks like at the back. So we'll go in and impute our circumference measurement. So go in and divide your round bust by 4, mark that down, and then mark your inseam allowance. So whatever inseam allowance you're using for the front also applies to the back. Okay, now at the waist area, ensure you put the dart intake you took, which is 1 inch, before putting your inseam allowance, right? And then connect it together like so you can see what we have. Okay, then for the zip area, I'm going to extend the waist out. Then I'm going to go in at the zip point by 1/2 inch. So the allowance I have for my zip here is 1.5 inches, but I went in at the waist by 1/2 inch, and I'm connecting it to nothing at the top part of this. Now this is so that we can avoid any form of bulging around the zip area. I just went ahead to cut it out. Okay, so this is what we have. Now you notice that if you take the measurement from your waist, from your shoulder to your waist in front, it is longer than what you have at the back. Okay, so for you not to have any issues, we're going to go up from the zip area of the back by 1 inch and connect it to nothing at the other end. Now this is so that by the time you finish attaching your clothes together, the back part of it will not be pulling down. So you have the bust in front to help the fabric to pull at the front, but at the back there's nothing there, so it is necessary for you to take out this 1 inch at the back so that this is going to sit perfectly at the back by the time you finish everything. So this is what we have for our back piece. All right, so if you're going in at the shoulder area for the armhole area for the front, also do the same thing for the back so that they are. Now the next thing we want to get is our tear measurement. Okay, so this is an important part where you need to concentrate and you need to listen carefully. Okay, so the first thing I want to do, I just want to check out the picture and show you what we have. So the next thing you want to do is to determine the full length from your shoulder to the ground floor, because the dress gets to the floor, it is flowy on the ground. So for me, I'm using 55 inches for the length of this gown. So what you do is minus your half length from that. So 55 minus 16 inches, which is from my shoulder to waist, I have 39 inches left. So you need to determine how to share 39 inches. You have 3 tiers for this. We have tier 1, 2, and 3. Now for the first tier, the tier stops around the hip area, okay? It goes from the waist to the hip area. So from your waist to your hip, from this dress, it is 8 inches for what I'm working with. 8 inches plus 1 inch to be of my allowance for joining to the waist and then joining the other down part to it. So I have 9 inches for my first tier, okay? So I'll minus that from that. I have 30 inches left. So for my second and third tier, I'll be distributing my 15 inches to both of them equally. Then I'm going to add the same allowance I added for the front, which is going to serve as my joining allowance. Then for the last one, we need to have excess of what we have for the second. Now, this is because you'll be hemming the down part of your last tier. So it's needed for you to add extra allowances to that. So I just use 1.5 inches, but I will encourage you, while I was cutting, I actually cut out 17 inches instead of 16.5. Okay, it's going to serve you best if you have more instead of less. So we have the measurement for our length all set. Okay, so this first place we have here is the measurement for the length. So the first one is 9, the second is 16, and the third should be 17 inches. That was how I cut it out. Now, to get the width measurement, remember this is gathered. The first part of this is gathered. The second part is pleated. The third part is also pleated. So go ahead and multiply your round waist by 2. Now, while multiplying your round waist, ensure you also add your zip allowance to this, okay? I went ahead later to add that. Then whatever you get for the first one, multiply it by 2 also to get your second tier. Then multiply the third and the second answer times 2 to get the third tier. So this is how to get this. So you can decide to have it gathered at the waist, the second tier, and at the third tier. It simply depends on how you want it to turn out. But from the video we're following, the second one was just pleated, same as the third, okay? So go ahead and cut on our fabric. So these are the fabrics we'll be working with. I have 4 yards of this orange, and I also have 1 yard of the white, even though I didn't use all of them, okay? So you'll be needing at least 4 yards of fabric for this, okay? So I've gone ahead to fold my white part of my fabric into 4. Now that's because I want to cut 2 pieces of this for my yoke. One is going to serve as my lining piece, and one is going to be my main piece, okay? So I'm using a cotton crepe fabric for this video. So you need to use a fabric that is not so light and not so thick. Your fabric should be not so light or not so thick. It's going to give you the perfect outcome. You don't want a fabric that is too thick. It's going to be too heavy and it will be dragging down. Okay, so I just went ahead to place my yoke on top of this. Remember, I said I folded it into 4 so I can get 2 pieces of this. And then at the bottom area, I'll be adding 1 inch to this. Now, I advise you to add 2 to 2.5 inches for yours. After doing this and sewing it, I noticed that it was smaller than what we had from the video. So I advise you to use 2 to 2.5 inches for yours. Add that extra so that by the time you turn the down part of this, you will not have it being so tiny. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that. I just went ahead to cut it out. Okay, so this is what we have for the yoke. I'll just take off the pattern paper and I'll open this up. So this is one part of it and this is the other part of it. So you go ahead and place them together, whatever point you want to use as your right side, because this fabric at a point it was actually confusing. So just go ahead and place them together, ensure they are placed properly together, and then stitch down the neck area. You want to close down the down part of this, the armhole area, the neck area. That's the important part for you to close down on this area. Okay, leave the shoulder area open. Just go ahead and close the other end, leaving the shoulder area open. Okay. So we'll go ahead and cut out the other part of our front. I just placed this on a piece of fabric and I'm cutting it out. So what I'm doing is cutting out 4 pieces of my center front and 4 pieces of my side front. Sorry, 2 pieces of my center front and 4 pieces of my side front. Okay. So initially, we're supposed to have 2 pieces of this. Okay. And I added half of an inch to the part I'll be joining together, which is going to be my joining allowance. Now, the reason for cutting this extra, like cutting another set of this, is so that I'm going to use this as my lining inside. All right. So the reason I'm cutting an extra of this instead of just cutting how I should have done it is because I need to use this as my lining. So remember I said I got like 4 yards of this fabric, so I had enough of it and I wanted to use it as my lining to give it a better look and a better fitting. All right, so we'll go ahead and cut the back part. So for the back, we'll not be cutting any lining part of this. We'll just go ahead and cut out 2 parts for our back, one for the right and the other for the left. All right, so these are the pieces for my tear. This is the first one that will be attached to the top. Okay, that's this one, and then this is the second, and we have this the third. So remember, they have different measurements in width and also in length. So we want to go ahead and pleat the down part to the second one and pleat the other one also. Then the first one, we just run a loose stitch on top of it. Okay, so for the front part, this is how we're going to be stitching this down. So like I said, I actually cut out 2 parts of my center front. Okay, one is going to serve as my lining piece, and also for the side front I also cut out 4 parts of it instead of 2. So what you want to do is to position them together. Now if you're using a crepe fabric, it's quite confusing. Okay, so if you don't have much fabric, you can just cut facing for the neckline, your different necklines for the front. If your fabric is not enough, don't kill yourself, just cut out facing for the neckline. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pin this together, right side to right side of fabric. So just go ahead and pin them together, pin the right side to the right side of fabric. Repeat the same process for the other part. All right, so this is what we have after I finish turning my yoke together. This is what it looks like. Okay, it looks nice already. All right, then for the other part, this is the front. I've gone ahead to join them together, turn it with the lining and iron it down. So I used a stay inside in order to give it a little more fitting, like to give it a little more balance on this. All right, then for the back, I just went ahead to fix my dart, and then I added a facing to the neckline and then the armhole area. Okay, so this is what we have. What we want to do next is to stitch down our yoke to the front part. So you position this on top of the piece and go ahead and stitch it down. Okay, So I've stitched it down. This is what it looks like. You can see our top is coming in gradually. So the next one to do is to join the shoulders together. To do that, we bring in our back piece and place this wrong side facing up, so the right side facing right side. Go ahead and position them properly and then stitch down the shoulders by half of an inch on both sides. So I've stitched it down. I also went ahead to stitch down the sides of the dress, so I have that positioned properly. Okay, so what I want to do next is to attach the down part, the skirt part of this, to the upper part. All right, so to do that, this is the down part of my skirt. I've gone ahead to join them like I said I would. So I just did pleats on the down part, like attach the down part to the second one with pleats, and did the same thing by attaching my second to the first one with pleats. Okay, you can see what we have there. I've also hemmed it down. Then on the upper part, I just did a loose stitch on it because that part will be gathered at the waist area. Okay, so what I want to do is to adjust our waist area in order for it to fit into what we have already for that of the upper bodies. So you can use more fabric for yours. If you want the gathers to be much, you can cut more fabric. Okay, so instead of timesing your round waist by 2, you can multiply it by 2.5, or you can multiply it by 3 inches. Just depends on how full the volume you want it to be. And you can, like I said, you can also gather the second tier and the third tier. It simply depends on you. So I'm just placing this on my piece, positioning them properly, making adjustments where necessary, pinning them down together. It is necessary for you to pin them down together so that it gives a better fit. Okay, so you want to be even with your gathers. You simply want to distribute it so that it is equal. You don't want one side to be plain and the other side to be full. So just go ahead and even them out, pin them together. Make sure you place them together properly, and after you finish pinning, placing them and doing the right things, go ahead and stitch it together by half of an inch. All right, so I've stitched it together. This is what it looks like. Okay, our gown is looking so pretty. I wish I can wear this. All right, so this is what we have. The last thing we're going to do is to close down the zip allowance area. So what you want to do is to mark the length of your zip. So just go ahead and mark where you want your zip to end. Mark it down. For me, I just went ahead to mark it down. All right, that's where I want my zip to end, and I'm going to place my zip to fit into that point and go ahead and close down the other area. So this is the final look of the dress. This is how it turned out. Let me know in the comment section what you think about this. If you have any question, I'll be obliged to answer them. Okay, so if you're yet to subscribe to the channel, do well to subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.